Thank you all for spending a little bit of time with us today. Today's going to be a pretty quick webinar. We're going to take probably just about 15 or 20 minutes or so, but I'm really excited to show you one of the coolest features of Mangomint and one that you'll likely use quite a bit. Today, we're going to dive into our self-check-in feature and our virtual waiting room feature. I'm going to be sharing my screen with you and walk you through what it looks like from the business side of things, as well as what the client experience is like with these features. And we'll take a look at two primary use cases today. The first is going to be, I'll show you the flow of the client self-check-in process, so a client arriving and checking themselves in when they arrive. And we'll also take a look at when a client comes in the service provider, the stylist, esthetician, artist, what have you, is not ready yet. We'll cover all that today, how those workflows go and what they look like from both sides. Before we get started though, everyone go ahead and drop a little thumbs up in the chat for me, just so I know that you guys are here, you can hear me, and that you can ask questions throughout the process. I'll make sure that we try and get to those as we go through. Perfect. Looks like we've got that already taken care of. So I'll go ahead and share my screen now, and we can take a look at what it looks like in the app. We'll dive right in here. I will share my screen and pull up the Mangomint app. And in just a second here, you should be able to see my calendar view here. So we've got our four service providers that are on today. We've got Andre, Harriet, Jennifer, and Stella. And before we got started today, I went ahead and put myself on the books with Jennifer here for a little wax. And so before we dive into the settings and how to enable everything, what I'll do is I'll show you first how things would typically go on the client side, give you a little sneak preview of what their experience is in this scenario. So if you do have the self-check-in feature enabled, about 15 minutes before the appointment starts, the system will send a text message to the client. They'll also send an email to them as well. It says, your appointment starts soon. When you get here, go ahead and press this button to check in, that kind of thing. So what I'll actually do is show you the message that I received on my phone when I booked my appointment here. And I'll go ahead and share. I'll stop sharing this screen and I'll go ahead and pull up my phone screen so that you can see what that looks like. So in just a second here, you'll see my text message application. You'll see that I received my confirmation initially when I booked here. And then I also received my 15-minute reminder that says my appointment starts soon. In this case, it says when you arrive, please wait outside. That is something that you can configure and customize here in the app as well in your settings. So what this shows here is a link that I can use to check myself in. So I, as the client, received this. When I arrive, I can go ahead and check myself in via the app. So let's just say I've just parked. I'm going to go ahead and check myself in. I click on that, and that's actually going to open a new window in your Chrome tab or whatever app that you use. And that will look just like this. There's going to be a big blue button there that says when you've arrived, use the button to check in. I can go ahead and click that button right there to check myself in. And what will happen in real time, if we switch back to the app here, you'll see that that appointment that was on the books for me previously has changed from blue to purple. So purple indicates waiting here in the app, and that now shows that I am waiting for my appointment. Now, what it also shows here is a couple of indications on the calendar that we do have somebody in the queue waiting in the virtual waiting room. So the two indicators of that we can see directly here is that on the calendar in the top left, we've now got a little alert badge that has the number 1 in it to indicate that there is one person currently waiting for their appointment in the virtual waiting room, as well as this little purple bubble here in the bottom left corner of the screen with a little people icon on it. If we click on that, you'll see that there's a list of waiting clients currently. That's just myself, and it shows my name and how long ago I checked in right there. So those are our two indicators. Those will have that alert badge on them until I am checked into in service by the front desk. That is what it looks like here on the app side. And you've also seen what it looks like on the client side there. I'm going to go ahead and pause real quick just to see if there's any questions in the chat, if anybody had anything else to ask. And it doesn't look like it. So great. We'll go ahead and move on to the second use case that we discussed earlier. So in this case, the client has arrived for their appointment, but the stylist, esthetician, what have you, is not ready for them just yet. So what we'll do is we can check them into the virtual waiting room, and from there they can go grab a coffee nearby, go make a quick phone call outside, or wait in their car, or whatever it is that they'd like to do until they're ready. So in this case, they walk in, their stylist will say isn't quite ready for them. So we're going to go ahead and say, let them know what's going on. And then we can check them into the waiting room right here in the interface. So that will, again, change the notification to purple. You'll see them added to the queue here for waiting. And all those little notification badges have updated there on the screen. And you'll see that there's a new option that's popped up right here in the appointment blade on the right-hand side that says notify. So a few minutes goes by. Once their service provider is ready to take them, if they're outside at the coffee shop, wherever, we can go ahead and send a notification to them by hitting the notify button. And that will go ahead and send them a text message that will say, hey, your service provider is ready for your appointment. Please go ahead and meet us at the entrance, that kind of thing. Again, these messages are customizable. Any of the messages that you do send to clients are customizable within the settings, and I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. But as far as that goes, once the client comes back in, we can go ahead and get them checked into their service. As soon as their service provider takes them back, we'll go ahead and hit the in-service button right here, and they're now checked in. That's pretty much the entire flow for self-check-in and for the virtual waiting room. As you can see here, the notification badges have changed from 2 to 1. And if we go ahead and check me into in-service as well, you'll see that those alert badges and the little bubble here at the bottom for the waiting queue both disappear off the screen. So that is pretty much the entire flow for that. I will go ahead and pause here just again for one more second to see if there are any more questions here that we can address. Let's see. Yes, it does look like we've got a question. Awesome. Let's see. Taryn asks, can you customize a message to tell people not to check in before they arrive? Yes, absolutely. We touched on that just briefly. And that's actually a pretty good segue into our settings. So let's take a look at that right now, actually. We'll go ahead and pull up our settings menu here. And then we're going to click on automated messages. And we can go to check-in process, the option right here on the left. So what we can see here is a series of messages that will go out as a part of the check-in process. The first one that displays here is the 15 minutes prior to appointment time text message. That's the one that we saw earlier on my phone. That message, as I mentioned, can be customized. We can go in right here and customize this however we want, right? So if we want to change this to say, please do not check in until after you've arrived, we can put that text in right here. We can save that. It's now included as a part of that text message. You can also send a test message if you want to do that here. And as you can see at the top, we already have this little toggle turned on, but this toggle right here is what we can use to automatically say, ask clients to wait outside. If you see we turn it off, it goes away. And when we turn it on, it includes that text back in here. This is a bit of a relic from the COVID era when salons and spas had limited capacity inside. And we developed this as a response to that. Some people ask us why still have that. Is that actually really useful? It still is. A lot of our customers do still use it and find it useful, especially for studios that maybe don't have a front desk person on staff all the time. This is great to go ahead and say, go ahead and wait outside. And that way, if it's, let's just say like a small waxing studio and there's only a few wax specialists on staff that day, then that person who, once they finish up with their client, they're done, they can go ahead and notify, the client when to come in, go receive them at the front door and bring them back, that kind of thing. So great for, leaner establishments that don't necessarily have front desk on at all times. It's a great choice. Okay, so we've seen how we can customize that first text message. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one in the queue here. When a client checks themselves in as waiting, this is the text message that goes to the service provider. So if I, as the client, go ahead and do self-check-in, this is when a text message would go directly to my stylist, my esthetician, whoever I'm booked with, to let them know that I've arrived. So this text message is fairly straightforward. This one's not customizable. Again, it's just internal, and that's probably the reason why. But anyway, for this particular message, it says your appointment is waiting. It'll give the appointment time right there, and it'll give the client name as well. Again, not customizable on this one, but again, this is only going directly to the service provider. When we scroll a little further down here, we can see when the staff member presses notify button. So this is when, in that flow that we just saw for the virtual waiting room, when the client is grabbing a coffee or they're outside and the front desk wants to let them know that we're ready to take them. This is the message that goes to the client at that point, and we can customize that one to say what we want here as well. So by default, it just says, your service provider's name is ready for your appointment. Please meet us at the entrance. We can, again, customize that however we like. And the last one here is when a client is checked in for their service. This is the text message that goes to the service provider. This one is another interesting one. This will just go directly back once the client is checked into in service. So this is if somebody walks in and we're not using virtual waiting room to check them in, maybe the stylist it's in a big salon, stylist is in the break room all the way at the back, and the front desk doesn't want to go run all the way back to let them know every time, leaving the clients alone up front, that kind of thing. We can go ahead and notify them immediately by just checking them into in-service, and this message will automatically go back to the service provider. So that is pretty much the entire customizable check-in process messaging flow that we can adjust here in the settings. Aside from that, the only other real setting that would be you might want to change is if this looks like a process that you don't necessarily want to use, if you don't want to use virtual waiting room and it seems like it might just be too complicated or it might be confusing for your staff, this is something that can be turned off. That's totally something that we can do. If it doesn't sound like something you want to use, I do recommend that you just go ahead and turn it off so nobody is struggling with it or no one's confused with it. Definitely recommend just popping in there and disabling it. So if we want to do that, we can go to settings, we can go to calendar and appointments, and we can go to waiting room. And right here under enable waiting status, this is where we can go ahead and disable that entire feature. So if we do that, all the buttons disappear, including the one on the calendar. The whole feature just essentially goes away. It's hidden, isn't used. So that pretty much covers all of our settings are in both of our workflows here that we saw earlier. So let's go ahead and I'm going to check back in on the questions here, see if we've got any more questions in the chat that we can address. And it looks like we do. So Sarah asks, can clients respond to automated messages? Yes. So as of earlier this year, we implemented our new two-way texting feature, which allows for communication with your clients via text messages beyond just sending automated messages. All the messages that you send via automated text messages and emails will show up here in the messages tab. So as of right now, since I didn't, as a client, respond to any of those text messages, it'll show that we have closed conversations, but we don't have open ones at the moment. We're in a demo environment. But if I open those up, you will see that we do have a series of them here. So automated messages are automatically marked as closed if there's no response. But let's say, for instance, if I go ahead and do respond, so I will text back here and say, thanks. That's going to go ahead and show up here in the user interface. If we look back here to open, there's now this particular, my phone number is tied to this to this customer as well here, this client as well. So you'll see that all the communications for Brad's appointment are right here. Any emails that we send, automated text messages and emails, that kind of thing, any texts that the client sends back, as well as any like forms that they fill out with integrated forms. So if they do like a client intake form or any other communication via integrated forms, those will also populate in this area. And when they are submitted, they'll appear over here in the details pane. So you can see my text message back, thanks, right here. So because we have automatic replies turned on, we see that an automated text message went out from the spa back to Brad here that says this is our automated phone number. We can turn that off and we can actually respond to Brad right here and say, see you soon. And that'll get sent right back to Brad and we can respond that way. So Really cool. That is two-way texting, one of my favorite features in Mangomint, and one that's our customers absolutely love. So definitely take a look at that if you haven't yet. You can absolutely respond to your clients, communicate back and forth, and this is awesome if an appointment needs to get moved up or moved back a little bit, that kind of thing. This is super helpful because the front desk and potentially the service provider can see and communicate with the client directly through Mangomint. Okay, let's see if we've got any other questions here. Okay, Kiara asks, can you use this feature only on certain days? I only have front desk staff on weekends. That's a great question. Yes, we covered that a little bit earlier. You can absolutely turn this feature on, for instance, only on weekdays where you don't have somebody at the front desk. That way your staff can receive clients as they're ready for them. And then turn it off for days where you do have front desk staff. It is super flexible, so you can customize it however you like, turn it on and off on the days that you want to. It's very easy to enable and disable it. Like we saw earlier, super flexible, and you can choose to use it only when you need it. Okay, thank you so much for your question, Kiara. Let's see if we have any others here. We've got one more. If someone at the front desk checks the client into the waiting room, will my stylist get a text message to notify them that their client is here? So we touched on this earlier as well, but just to reiterate, if somebody checks them into the client into the waiting room, there is not an automatic text message that goes to the stylist or esthetician staff member. If you check the client into in service, which we saw in the menu earlier, then yes, a text message will go through. That would be the workaround for that. If you want to go ahead and let the staff member know their client is there, you can do that. Otherwise, the only part of checking into the virtual waiting room that would send a message to the staff member directly would be if somebody does self-check-in, client uses self-check-in and checks themselves in to their appointment. That would send them a message. So there are two ways to handle it. If you're doing it manually and the service provider is going to be ready soon or is just in the break room, we recommend just hitting in service and going ahead and notifying them that way if you'd like. Otherwise, through the self-check-in process, when the client does check themselves in via that link, it will send a message directly to the staff provider. Okay, so I believe that covers all the questions in the chat for now. Thank you so much for joining us for this little feature spotlight. It was so much fun chatting with you all and taking a little look at Client Self-Check-In and the waiting room. If you have any more questions, please go ahead. Don't hesitate. Use the live chat feature on our website. A live person will always get back to you. Our support staff is incredible to make sure to get your questions answered in short order. You will get a live response. So don't hesitate on that front. We'll get back to you shortly. Thank you so much for tuning in again. I can't wait to do this again with you guys. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Bye.